Take it all away. I'm not scared of dying. You're the curse and there's no denying. When the water breaks, you'll fade away to a death beyond the grave. And no angels rise, so not alone in this war, so try.
And my last review, I swear I jinxed myself. Because I said that Castlevania was going to pick itself up after a little bit of a slump in the last episode. But no, instead, it dived off a cliff. This might be the weakest episode of the show so far, and unfortunately, the first one of the entire show that I can confidently say is not good. So, I'm going to be a little bit pissy in this review, and I apologize, but just know that this isn't a bad episode, it's just a very cataclysmically disappointing one, and even for Castlevania standards, it's still okay. But I am not a fan of this one very much, so let's talk about it. What's up, what's happening, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Animation Station, which is for anything animation, including vampire hunters fighting creatures of the night. Yes, I finally got it going. And TV and movies, I'm your host, Jackson Small. Welcome to my review of what I consider the weakest episode of the entirety of Castlevania so far, The Good Dream. I don't really have a whole lot to say on this episode, I just don't like it. Sorry. So, let's talk about it. So, synopsis. Lenore continues to spend time with Hector, slowly earning his trust, easily the best part of the episode. Saint Germain experiences a telling nightmare about the Infinite Corridor, the worst part of the episode. Alright. Starting in Carmilla's castle, because Carmilla was not in the last episode. Lenore visits Hector at his cell. The latter now has clothes, and according to Lenore, looks almost human. Perfect to go on a walk, but before Hector can leave his cell, he must wear a collar, which he reluctantly agrees to. In the castle's courtyard, the pair are enjoying their stroll despite the cold and lack of sunlight. One of their conversations leads to Carmilla's treatment of Hector during the war, and although Hector is still resentful, he must admit that Carmilla's intentions were not to kill him. Carmilla might have a temper, but she's logical. She never lets it run away from her to the point of condemning the entire human race to death, unlike Dracula. Moreover, Hector is still alive because he listened to Carmilla and saved him from his former master's foolish plans. Nearby, Striga and Carmilla are listening in to the duo's conversation. Striga disagrees with Carmilla's treatment of Hector, however she points out that it would be impossible for Lenore to build him up if she hadn't broken him. But even if Lenore convinces Hector to make the creatures, there's still the issue where they will get the fresh bodies from without reducing their feeding stock to absolutely nothing. Lenore brings Hector back inside, but instead of leading him to his cell, she brings him to a new one. His new prison quarter has a sheet and a pillow, but more importantly, a desk with a book about vampire magic. Slowly but surely, Hector begins to fall for Lenore's charms. And I have a feeling that she's starting to fall for him too. Then we go to Lindenfeld. Trevor and Sypha are in bed together, once again, after having sex. The show does not dance around it, so I'm not either. And they discuss Saint Germain. Even though Trevor doesn't trust him, he admits that his first impression of the aristocrat was wrong. Saint Germain is a sad but confident man who desperately needs a friend. The duo decide to help Saint Germain in his quest. Underneath their window, a monk edges an ominous symbol on the wall. The same one that we saw 2 times already. Meanwhile, Saint Germain is having a terrible nightmare. And this is the part where I swear to you, Castlevania, for the first time out of so many episodes of the show, becomes boring. And no, I don't mean that as hyperbole. This is when the episode falls off a cliff. The aristocrat is falling into an endless pit with vibrant colors and lightning splashing all around him. He lands on the ground and a high-pitched sound covers the dimension he's in when suddenly the savanna grasslands appear before him, as well as a giant mechanical creature, possibly in an homage to Horizon Zero Dawn. As quickly as it came, it vanished. More dimensions start to pop up. Images of spaceships in the Australian outback come into vision. Another aspect opens up with a woman standing at the center. Saint Germain stretches out his hand for the woman to take. She denies it and instead throws him a crystal instead. Saint Germain wakes up from his nightmare and starts to write in his diary. This, my friends, is the Infinite Corridor, and this is when the show officially jumps the shark, because it's not supernatural anymore. Now it's just interstellar and a trippy LSD trip. And I hate to say it, But this is where the episode almost put me to sleep. Because it's just seeing all these different things pop up in this infinite corridor. Saint Germain screaming and yelling his bloody head off. And it's just boring. Because we've seen this kind of crap before in a million other shows and a million other movies. This is nothing new. I usually hate it when this happens in those things because it just feels like it is wildly out of place from what's actually going on. Yes, I know the Infinite Corridor is probably about to play a huge part in the rest of the season, but I don't care because this part just was so damn boring, and I did not care for a second. Like, whenever this is in anything, when it doesn't even fit in the show itself, it's just bad. This part of the episode, in my opinion, is flat out bad. Maybe it'll make more sense as the season goes along, but until then, this part is bad, and it's, in my opinion, the worst scene in all of Castlevania. It is trippy, it is dull, it is boring, it is repetitive, it is monotonous, it is repetitious, and I fucking hate it. Sorry. But we get to finish off on a somewhat positive note with Isaac and Genoa. He's sitting near a campfire surrounded by his night creatures. He wants to speak to the creature who can talk well, the one with the eyes. The one he made in Genoa. Fly Eyes is what they call him. At least according to the subtitles on Netflix, that's what they call him. Isaac wants to know if the creature remembers his life before. Fly Eyes went to hell. He does. He was a scholar, a philosopher from Athens, during the time where the empire ruled the country. However, the Christians ruled philosophy to be a crime. To be a philosopher was a sin, and as such, Fly Eyes became hunted. But that isn't why he was in hell. He lied for his life in a church before a judge. He gave up others so that he may live. He became a sinner, and they killed him anyway. During his time in hell, Fly Eyes learned something about sin. He learned to like it. A look of remorse appears to form on Isaac's face. And that's the episode. It's mostly okay, but that one scene with Saint Germain having a nightmare about the Infinite Corridor is when the show jumped the shark and almost put me to sleep. So, final thoughts on the episode? Not a whole lot to say. Hate to say it, but this is probably the weakest episode of the entire series so far. It's just too abstract and trippy to really be taken seriously. Add on the slow pacing and it just makes it difficult to sit through. Like, there's no action in this episode at all. But I do enjoy the scenes with Hector and Lenore, possibly hinting at another relationship. And the scene at the end with Isaac, while going on a little too long and being a bit preachy, is good for the character development. Unfortunately, though, it just can't see this episode. This is the first time this show has outright bored me, and this episode is sadly just not good. And because of that, final verdict is a low but well-deserved 4 out of 10. This episode is dull, tedious, and boring. And that's it. I wish I had more to say, but that's literally it. So, thank you guys so much for watching. Sorry for being so pissy in this review, but I just don't like this episode. But, knowing Castlevania, hopefully, if it doesn't bite me in the ass again, it will improve itself in the next episode. We'll find out next time when we look into the next episode of Season 3 with Episode 7, Worse Things Than Betrayal.